I was wondering if you could talk to us about how you hold your mind.
I hold my mind?
How one holds one's mind.
I recommend not holding your mind.
Oh, good.
It's kind of hard to get a handle on. What are you referring to?
I guess just staying in the big open space.
Well, how can you leave the open space?
Oh, easy.
I don't understand that.
Wow.
Can you leave experience? You can pretend to leave experience, but you don't actually leave experience because you pretend to leave experience in experience, right?
Oh, so...
And experience is the big
the
open space.
Oh.
There's no other open space. That would just be imaginary. The actual open space is this open space right here. Imaginary open spaces are useless.
So how come it feels confined then? What is the confinement from time to time? It's like freezing space.
It's not looking closely. It's not a careful observation. You draw a conclusion of confinement on inaccurate observation, inaccurate information. If you look at your experience, you'll discover it is an openness. There's no way it can be confining.
So when the mind is rolling around, that's just the...
Just the mind rolling around.
Rolling.
Except for the rolling around part. Except for the mind part too. But
and there's no when.
That boils it right down.
We're carrying it down here. We got to a sentence.
We're ripping it apart.
No, I mean, it's the same old issue, which is that what this is can misinterpret itself. And it can misinterpret itself as anything. It can misinterpret itself as a finiteness. It can misinterpret itself as a closedness. It can misinterpret itself as a stuckness. It can misinterpret itself as a separateness. But there's no evidence for any of those things. So if it actually takes the effort to look at itself, it will discover that none of these conditions are actually the case. Because what's actually the case right here is an openness. You can't find any boundaries. You can't find any edges. You can't find any top or bottom. It's not sitting on anything. This is just here. What's it resting on? It's just here.
So Peter, do you ever have that experience where you misinterpret?
Do I?
I mean, is there a point where you just don't misinterpret, or you just know?
No, not anymore. But it's subtler than that. Because I know that misinterpreting is it. So even the mind is endlessly generating misinterpretations. But that's what the mind does. So it's when you see that that's the case, it's just the mind doing its thing. And just because it's generating misinterpretations doesn't mean they are inhabitable. You can't move into them in actuality.
So would your just knowing that short circuit that?
Yes, almost more than knowing. It's like a tactile presence. It's a certain presence. It's a certainty. It's living. It's really a self. I mean, it is a living rather than a knowing.
So then you would be looking deeper.
A feeling.
If there was ever that experience that came up for you, what you said before is that if you look deeper, you realize that that's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Deep is a misleading word.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, look again.
Look closely.
Mm-hmm.
There's a a kind of a. I think there's a subliminal, unspoken notion in spirituality that somehow vagueness is a good thing, but in actuality, absolute, up close, in your face, present, detailed, scientific observation reveals reality, reveals the absolute, reveals the divine. And you don't need to augment it with any kind of vagueness and fuzziness and imaginary, because it is that, and it will reveal that if you look at it up close, and it will reveal it much more convincingly if you look at it with detail and presence and intelligence than if you just sort of, go off. I mean, not that I'm saying that that's what you were saying, but that occurred to me. Yeah, basically, spiritual ignorance is a failure of observation.
What's being missed in the observation when it's failure?
If anything is being missed, then that's what's being missed.
Well, I guess it doesn't make any difference then if there's a sense of openness and.
Oh, it doesn't matter at all. It is what it is. It doesn't need to be seen as this or as that. It just is what it is. And what's being missed is whatever is outside your worldview, whatever you're censoring, whatever is, not included in your sense of things. It's not included on your list of what is. And I think for most people it's probably kind of vaguenesses and non-linearities and ambiguities and all that, because I think most people sort of want to get a handle on this is this and that's that, and all the in-between information, all of it, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, is kind of, it's scary, it's sort of censored or buried. And, there's inherent indeterminacy in experience that I think a lot of people sense. I think that's one of the things people sense.
I was noticing how the clouds are. So I was watching them, and there's kind of everything going on. There's resolution, there's unresolvability, there's patterning and no patterning. It's really it's everything.
Yeah.
Watching the clouds is watching reality, which is watching exactly inner, outer, like above as below, as we were talking.
Yeah.
And I know it's not always accessible. I know I don't always see with everything like as accessible as that, let's say, or different space for it. But it's very interesting how that really reflects reality. There's just this,
Sure. Yeah, when you see how clouds work, you're seeing how reality works, and when you see how clouds work, you're seeing how anything works.
Yeah.
And when you see that up close and personal and really get it, then you can look at anything whatsoever in your experience and you'll see the same phenomena.
And it really is like watching a movie. It is so entertaining.
Oh yeah,
it's like
totally. It's trippy.
It's just like I'm like so engaged with it. I can't, and But it's interesting how sometimes maybe there's kind of like a forcefulness of wanting to see that in every particular thing. I'm presuming, I mean, by saying every particular thing, I'm just, I guess if I call something, it's harder like if I'm, noticing the ground or trees, preconceived ideas or whatever, maybe not as closely as...
But even when you're experiencing something that you have a lot of preconceived ideas associated with, you're simultaneously experiencing the direct experience,
Yes.
which is totally cloud-like in every way.
Even though I can't necessarily, even though vision-wise I might not be able to detect it. Like, you know how with a cloud, and if it's moving fast, I can see the dynamism very clearly. And maybe I'm looking for dynamism in everything.
Well, there is dynamism in everything, but it's the dynamism of experiencing, not a dynamism in the supposed thing. There are no things, there's just experience. Again, you look at a blank wall, and you're going to see dynamism.
Yeah.
Look at the floor, stare at the floor for a minute without moving your eyes and just look, and it's going to be like it's breathing or dancing or something. That's bona fide dynamism.
Yeah.
U.S. government approved grade A.
Here now, hallucination.
So I guess the times that's not seen, it's just not seen. It does not. There's no.
Well, it gets censored out if we fixate on sort of an auto suggestion that it doesn't exist. No, it's just a floor. It's not moving. It's stable, and then you sort of hypnotize yourself to having an inert, thing that's sitting there absolutely lifeless, whereas the actual experience is completely vital and dynamic. And that lifeless thing doesn't exist. The only thing that does exist, of course, is experience. You can't find the lifeless thing. You can't find the inert thing. You have to hypnotize yourself into it, which is basically what we do with our worldviews. It's just the floor. It's not moving, and all of a sudden, Experience is a dynamism, and there's nothing but experience. It's that simple. Obviously, there's nothing but experience. Where would you find it? You can't look for something outside your experience. You're going to find it by looking in your experience, because there's nowhere else to look, right?
Right.
We don't have access to anything other than experience, so that's what we're looking at. And experience is a dynamism. Even if there was something in there, we would never know. We don't have access. The only thing we have access to is experiencing.
But in experiencing, there can seem to be inertness, right? Or a dullness, or all those qualities, right?
There can seem to be, but if you look closely, you'll see that you weren't looking closely enough. In fact, there is no inertness. There's no such thing as inertness. There's no such thing as stasis. There's no such thing as changelessness.
So I guess I would have to say maybe it's a certain willingness or something to still censor, to still not, something that's not maybe isn't opening me to see everything as dynamic.
Well, if one finds oneself still addicted to supplying these stabilities in one's experience, then that's what will tend to experience. And it may be something, even if you're sort of graduating from that mode, it may be a mode that you go back to, or maybe a mode that that you partially are unaware of, and so just go there automatically and unquestioningly.
Well, just when it comes up, I see it as I see it, and then trust the...
Yeah, but the point is, in practice, whenever you can, notice actuality, notice the dynamism, notice like the clouds. Great, cool, yeah, but by all means, spend as much time as you can stand looking at the clouds. That's right on the money.
It's also like anything. It's the light shining,
that's
smoke going with the...
Anywhere where you can see it, see it.
Okay.
And then don't worry about struggling with where you can't. Just go to where you can.
Sure.
Don't deal with don't deal with stuckness, bypass it altogether and go to vitality, and the vitality will eventually completely defeat the stuckness. It'll just render it absurd. So you don't fix, you don't try to repair or fix your failings or the areas where you are stuck. Just completely duck them and go to where it's alive. Run out the back door.
Sometimes I don't even know that I'm in that stuck mode, because it's just kind of, all of a sudden I'll wake up an hour, a day, a week later, and it's like, oh.
If it's only a day or a week, you're doing great. It's the 30 years you got to watch out for. Well, where was I?
Well, I was looking at security yesterday, Peter, and feeling like that if I take away all of the things that I usually think of that provide me with security, there's going to be nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, when I look closely into that, I see that, in fact, that's far more secure than all the things that I have previously been thinking are my security.
Yeah.
Because it's at the very bedrock of...
Yeah. All the things we think we're depending on for security, we could lose. There are conditions, we're depending on conditions for security. Conditions are fallible, they're mutable, they disappear, they're unreliable. But reality is completely reliable, it won't let you down, and it's the only actual and the only absolute security there is. It's what, this right here, it will never let you down, it will never go.
Yeah, and I was even looking at moral, the religious ideas that we're raised with to believe that if I do these things that are good and moral, and then because she had another set of beliefs that really provide no security whatsoever, and even the Indian, the whole Indian Hindu practice, which is about purification and karma, which really doesn't hold up either.
Well,
It's all really just what it is, and it's hard to say, in fact, whether there is any sense of buoyancy in reality. I mean, there's no faith there that will allow me to know that this is better than what I've been doing. But there is a sense, there is an intuitive sense that it just makes sense somehow.
Yeah. Well, reality is beyond faith. Reality is. It is. It's a certainty. It's an actuality. It doesn't. It's not augmented by faith, and it's not diminished by lack of faith. It just is here now.
Yeah.
And that fact is the secure fact. And there's no other secure fact.
No, and there's no other reality either. So,
Right. Yeah.
So this is what we got.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. If it isn't secure, then we're shit out of luck. Pretty much.
Yeah. But it's a very edgy kind of exploration.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's a good one.
It's completely being on a ship in a storm, going into the unknown. There's no life jackets. Nothing.
It's going into reality. It's saying, hey, I'm going to let go. I'm going to grow up. I'm going to let go of my teddy bears and my night lights and my security blankies, and just here I am.
Yes.
This is real. This is actual.
Not my teddy bear.
Pacifier.
You've gone too far.
Most people would agree. Jed McKenna has this delightful image in one of his books. So he says we're all in the middle of the night in a limitless sea of icy water. We're clinging to life rafts, treading water, and pretending we're secure. And the worst thing you can possibly do, the one thing you're not allowed to do, is let go of the life raft. It's the ultimate taboo, don't let go of the life raft. Don't slip into the depths. You're not supposed to do that.
Who's that, did you say?
A writer named Jed McKenna.
I'm confused when you say bypass the places where you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of it. I find that once I realize I'm stuck, that it's a really juicy place to go.
Right.
And
oh yeah.
When you say look at the thought, really closely, look at the misconception in your face. Like say I notice I have a stuckness and it's a feeling tone, and I look at it sort of in my face.
Uh-huh.
It seems to me.
Right.
Look at the texture.
Yeah. No. Looking at it is good. What I mean is, what I'm recommending against is trying to fix it.
Oh.
Because what generally happens is when we try and fix these stucknesses, we get further embroiled because we try and fix the stucknesses in terms that the stucknesses seem to be. Whereas if you look at them, that's actually a mode of bypassing them, because you're leaving what they are claiming to be and going to what they actually are. See what I mean? You're going to the actual present reality rather than the sort of the story that the stuckness depends upon for its energization. Yeah. Well, yeah. In terms of when I say bypass the stucknesses, I mean don't try to fix them. Don't try to repair them, because you're most likely to just get sucked into that view and you'll just be battling a ghost. Whereas if you just see it, seeing it is always good. Seeing is always good. Looking is always good. Because looking is bypassing it, because you're leaving its realm of story and innuendo and leaving the realm of present and entering the realm of presence, which is reality. And reality will win every time. So what is present, what is seeable, what is actually here is freedom, is vitality, is reality, and it will completely undermine all of these ghostly confusions that are entrapping. Presence cannot be entrapping. Reality cannot be entrapping. So when you go to presence by nakedly being with what is present, then you're bypassing all of the confusions and complications and such. Is that kind of what you're talking about, or?
Yeah. For me, it's really fruitful to look at the. I notice that I'm stuck in some thought or something, and to see it, look into it, see it immediately morphs into more subtle.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That I can look into, and then they get pretty subtle, and then it's long gone.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly. Yeah. You're bypassing it in terms of staying with it on its terms, and you're entering it on your terms, which are experiential presence. And there can be no stuckness in experiential presence.
Except experience keeps bringing up more. I
Yeah.
noticed one dissolved and then
Oh yeah. No, experience is a cornucopia. It just keeps. It's like the clouds in the sky. One goes and another one comes. But since they're a dynamism, they aren't a problem. They're just a flow of energy. And when you see there a flow of energy, it's not stuckness anymore, it's just a flow of energy. When they seem to be stuckness is when the energy is subliminally being taken as something. This energy isn't just energy, it's about something. It's, we have some kind of story or narrative, or there's some kind of, implicit implication or something where there seems to be something that the energy is about, and that's what makes the stuckness. But energy isn't about anything. Energy is just about energy. Clouds are just about clouds. So there's no implications. There's no residue. There's no. They don't leave any wake. It's just they're instantaneous and they're come and they're changing and then they're gone. And talking about the sort of levels of subtlety too is very powerful, because the phenomena of this energy that's present exists on all levels of subtlety and coarseness simultaneously. And these stucknesses don't. These stucknesses tend to sort of have a very narrow bandwidth. They tend to be kind of coarse and obvious and explicit, and they're just this. Whereas, so just seeing that they are multidimensional, just seeing that they do have layers of subtlety, tends to deconstruct them and remove them as what they're claiming to be as well. It's the same thing, it's just looking at it, seeing what's there.
When I start to look into it, there's so many so many layers of subtlety are revealed in the stuckness. All the assumptions that are going on.
Yeah.
All the layers of assumptions. And stories.
Yeah, but again, I recommend don't even follow after them. Don't even bother to analyze them.
Oh no, I don't mean as an analysis. I mean just as that they're there.
Yeah,
they're there.
Yeah, endless. The mind instantaneously can spit out endless complication. Your entire life history is like bang, there it is. And all the guilt and the obligations and the self-recrimination and the self-loathings and all this stuff, it's like bang, and the mind just like generates it in real time, instantaneously. It's not like it's carrying it around, it regenerates it in real time. It's very powerful in that. But there's nothing there but this amazing multidimensional whatever it is. Energy or whatever.
Like just dust floating in the air.
Yeah. And when you see that, you've bypassed the narrative, you've bypassed the history, and you aren't with history anymore, you're just with this amazing presence. And that's all the history ever was. It never was a history. It was lying by claiming to be a history. It never was a history. It's just this bizarre light show that is happening right here, right now. All of history is what's happening right here, right now. There is no history other than that. And if you look closely, you can't find any history. All you find is this light show.
The light show and the guilt trips.
Well, yeah. Let's not be
kind of like the dark show.
So Peter, in the analysis of the energy, if you are not going into, if you're bypassing the misinterpretations and all of that, what are you analyzing?
It's not analyzing, you're just experiencing. You're being with the presence of this, what is present, which at the moment we happen to be calling energy, but whatever it is what it is, and here it is. And when you're with it, you see that all the stories and everything else is made of nothing but it, and is empty other than this that is present, which is not a story. So all these stories and interpretations just reveal their hollowness. It's a house of cards. There's nothing there. It's a complexity that defines itself into existence, It has no actual existence. It just defines itself, it bootstraps itself up into existence by internally defining itself self-referentially. But what it's all made of is just this presence, this that is presence. And so when you see what is present, and you look at all this complication, you say, all this stuff is made of nothing other than this that is present. This that is present is not a story. It has no history. It has no implications. It has no nothing. It's just an instantaneous flashing.
So I guess where I'm at is that I'm not able to, I mean, at this point I'm not able to actually, what she was describing, I'm not able to do that yet. But I don't believe, I mean, I'm at a point where I don't believe anything anymore because I believe that everything is presence. And so I have lots of stuff come up and I just kind of let it go by.
Okay.
But I'm not able to go into details of the energy and how it looks and how
that's fine. You don't need to go to details, but I strongly recommend try and find some actual experience of presence. Just glance at the sun every now and then. Look at a light bulb. I mean, just anything that is just here, undeniably. And that here-ness is the presence. Presence is not something that is mysterious and not here. Presence is actually this right here that is here. So, just, even, I mean, what you're doing is great, but try and augment it by actually getting a sense of presence, directly. And just in a little thing even, just in a little way. Glance at the sun, just like you're walking down the street, just like, or you're sitting in a room and the sun's outside the window, just like glance at the sun, just like look at it for a second and just feel how you're getting blasted by it. Like, what is that? What is that blasting, that the sun does? It's pure energy, it's just presence. Or a light bulb, even the light bulb will do that. You look at the light bulb, it's like, it's not a thought. The light bulb is not a thought. And all of a sudden, you're outside thought. You're with actual presence. But just sort of play with that.
Yeah.
Just in little ways, every once in a while. It's like good medicine.
Yeah, that happens. I have that experience as much as I can get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't tell him to come, but I think he's come to stuff before, but I don't think he's been officially invited. Okay.
I've got a Dzogchen question for you. I was reading this book that you sent me about Rigpa. And it is a description of what happens after you become aware. It's not, it tells you what doesn't happen when you're aware. That's the wrong way. It seems to say, this is a book about after you become aware, and it says the same thing over and over and over,
right,
in different ways.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually tell you, didn't tell me anything new.
Well, it wouldn't tell you anything new. You have to understand the sort of the practice premise of Dzogchen is that there's one thing, which is to have a direct, to discover what Rigpa is. And by the word Rigpa technically means exactly the same thing we're calling presence. You have to discover you have to have the direct experience of what that is, and then it becomes meaningful to talk about Dzogchen. Until you have that experience, the only thing is get the experience. And that in the context of Dzogchen is kind of deferred to working with a master and getting him to zap you, or essentially. And then all these refinements, like these kinds of texts, are about, well, once you've noticed Rigpa, then you have to train in it. You've sort of become familiar with it. You refine your experience of it to being experiencing it most profoundly and powerfully and ubiquitously, so you see that it is everything and blah, 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 which is just basically a matter of getting into it more profoundly. So that's sort of the bent of those kinds of texts, those kinds of practice texts.
So this seemed to have little utility, this particular text, which was I think it's called The Discovery of Rigpa or something.
Yeah.
It's one of the ones you sent me.
Yeah.
And
well, it wouldn't. It's a kind of a text that is it's a kind of a beginning practice manual. So it's for people that have just discovered Rigpa and they're kind of training in being with it really solidly, connecting more and more fully with it. Which and because in the later stages of Dzogchen, there's this kind of refinement not necessary. The practice is to be in Rigpa, and it's not an issue at that point. And then the very fact of being in Rigpa obviously is an endless deepening and developing, because that's the nature of it.
Well, that's what I thought I was going to be getting into, but I didn't find that. I haven't read the whole thing.
Well, these different texts are very special. These particular ones are very specialized in terms of looking at particular aspects of practice, and most of them are more sort of beginning for people who are actually made the jump into seeing Rigpa, but are just kind of newbies, and they're trying to learn the ropes. So this is like kind of being shown the ropes sort of thing.
On that subject, it seems like when there's not much going on, there's a park near my house, I can go out for a walk, and it seems like it's pretty easy to be with presence, and I can look and
excellent,
not all the time, but sometimes. But when I'm talking with a person, when I'm having emotions come up in me, which is most of the time. It's not nearly so it's like degree of difficulty heightened, it seems like.
Sure. Yeah. And that's why I recommend develop facility, do it where it's easy. And by doing it where it's easy, you'll get better at it. And you'll notice a trickle down effect where gradually you'll find it easier to notice it in situations that are more challenging. Because you'll just be more sensitized to this sea of presence that experience is in, and then you'll begin to notice, emotions are coming up, but damn it, they're coming up in the sea of presence and experience, of course. And that'll be something that you'll have to less to sort of remind yourself of, and more just something that's obvious. You don't even need to notice it because it's just there. It's plain to see, kind of thing.
Seems like there's usually a leap-off point, and it's all of a sudden I leap off, and then, like I was saying before, there's an interval, could be short, could be long, and then I'm back.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that happens, and don't worry about it. It's just take that leap. When it's easy, and the trick is that it will build up momentum. It will build up facility, at the rate that it does, whatever that is.
Because one of the.
But here's another trick: is be gentle and forgiving with yourself when you're in a situation you're not noticing. Don't feel like you should be, and don't try and force it. So when you're not in the flow, just like totally give up. It's like, okay, I've lost, and like bang, I'm swamped, But don't like come down on yourself and think I should be. Let me work, because that is actually feeding the difficulty,
I
because
was just going to say that I was getting frustrated because I want to have it now.
Yeah, and that's fine. You're wanting. Notice there's a wanting showing up, but it's like, hey, I've lost it. I'm out of it. I'm out of my depth here, and just be, try and be sort of gentle and playful as much as you can, and forgiving in general with all your experience. So when you lose it, just like, oh, okay, I've lost it. It'll come back sooner or later. And in the meantime, I just struggle along, live my life like usual, and then sooner or later it'll come back, and when it comes back, then hit on it. But you see what I mean? So you hit on it when it's there, and when it's not there, all of a sudden it's just let go, hands off. And then when it comes back, then you go. It's not like you're trying to, in other words, sort of being goal-oriented and effortful and dutiful and really trying to, push, is actually counterproductive, because it actually feeds into the very mechanisms that take you away from it. This whole idea that there's something to get and something to lose and all these kinds of, just that whole mindset is counter to noticing. It's counter to this spontaneous presence. So, and you can never actually get that through. One can never actually get that through one's head. You just have to. It's an energetic presence, and you just have to see. When you lose it, it's just, oh, I'm gone. It's like, okay, I'm dead. It's like you're playing a computer game, and all of a sudden you're like, right. My character died. Okay, so I'm dead. But sooner or later you'll come back to life again, and then you play the game some more. But when you're dead, it's not like, I'm dead, I need to play the game. It's like, you're dead. So let go. Try and let go when you get knocked out into insanity, and just be forgiving yourself. Say, okay, I'm a crazy person, but sooner or later, it's going to hit again, and that's when you, okay, great. That's when you get on board. But don't push.
Trying to get through my head, but I'm of German descent, so.
Yeah. Well, that's the advice. I mean, obviously, being able to do it is part of the whole trick of it. But just sort of, play with that notion and then see what you can do with it. But in general, that's going to be the most efficient way is to not push, not try, not be goal-oriented. That's actually the most efficient, which is kind of counterintuitive, because you think, no, the harder I try, it's not like, it's the opposite. When you try and you push, you're actually just torquing yourself up and going in the opposite direction. When you let go and smile and laugh and tell a joke, that's when you're going into spontaneity, into presence.
Awareness, the computer game. Awareness, the computer game.
The app.
Peter, in the knowing state, the enlightened state, are the same misinterpreted understandings, are they still there? Like you still see the stuckness, but you know who you are, so that.
Yeah, I hear you. There's no stuckness. The mechanisms that formerly would have shown up as stuckness and would have felt like stuckness are still there, but there's no stuckness.
You don't see them as stuckness, or
they aren't stuckness, because they never were stuckness, and in realization you see that stuckness is impossible. It can't happen.
And so how come it happens in the unenlightened state?
Because you don't see that you haven't seen that it can't happen. But because the mechanisms that seem to look like stuckness when you're in stuckness are present, but you're thinking they're about something, and that's why they seem to be stuck. There seems to be something behind them, but in realization, you see that they're just mechanisms. They're just like empty machines spitting out bullshit. So it's like, oh, okay, cool, the bullshit machine's running, what's new? But there's no stuckness there. It's just like someone left the bullshit machine on. You know?
Yeah, who is that person?
There isn't an off switch to that.
There's no off switch, unfortunately.
Even when I shut up.
But it's just running over in the corner, and there's all this big, vast space, so it's not like it's a problem. It's just
So then
there.
that stops running in the enlightened state. Then it doesn't.
No, it doesn't stop. It never stops.
But-
But it doesn't. But it's not stuckness. It's just bullshit. In other words, the mind still may spit out all of its, oh, this is this and that's that, and oh, I'm thinking about this, and oh my God, what about this, and oh, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff may still be happening, but you know with absolute certainty and certain clarity that it's not about anything. It's just these thoughts that are just, they're insanity. You realize that the mind is insane, and so you're not stuck by, and that insane mind exists in the vast space that you are. So the fact that there's an insane mind present in the same space that you are is not really an issue, because it's not you and it's only a small part of what's going on. Mind by its very nature, as far as I can tell, maybe it's just mind, but I think not. Mind by its very nature is insane. But you're not the mind. The mind is just a small phenomena within you.
Yeah.
Like your digestion is a small phenomena within you. And you might have indigestion, but it doesn't mean you're stuck. It just means there's indigestion present.
Tell that to Pam
So the way to deal with the stuckness is to just feel the presence as whenever you can.
Well, the way to deal with the stuckness is bypass it. Go to presence.
Yeah.
The presence is not stuck. Presence is just here. It's not stuck, it's not unstuck, it's just here. This experience is here, this light is here. Is it stuck? No. Is it not stuck? No. Stuckness and non-stuckness just doesn't even apply. It's just in a universe, in a mode, in a reality where stuckness and unstuckness are not meaningful notions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is light stuck? Is it not stuck? It's just light. Right? So in the context of light, where is your stuckness? You're stuck, the light shines. You're not stuck, the light shines. It's like, okay. So stuckness is not a parameter of light. Interesting. What else isn't it a parameter of? And if you really look, you'll find that all of your being, all of your experience, stuckness is not an actual parameter of that. So the fact that there's a crazy mind in the background yelling, "You're stuck! You're stuck! You're stuck!" isn't referring to anything. Because what there is that to refer to is this shining forth, this completely unstuck shining that always does itself and appears and vanishes in eternity.
I see that for me it became that my personality didn't change, but my personality no longer defined me.
Yeah, exactly. It just becomes a small part of this little thing that's here.
Actually, that's wrong. My personality defines me, but that's something else.
But not you. I mean, your personality, your you as a human being is little. It's like when you dream, there's a character that's you in the dream, and there's also the dreamer. You are the character that's you in the dream, but that's very small. You are also the dreaming consciousness, which is vast in the entire universe of the dream, and endless other dreams appear in this dreaming consciousness, which you are. So likewise, the you that's a human being appears in this dream, but you're not limited to it. It is you, but it's like a small projection of you, which is a projection of the you that is the vastness that all this is happening in. So it's kind of a schizophrenic thing. The human being is still there, but it's small and in a vastness, and you are the vastness as well as the human being. Of course, you're also the environment that the human being seems to be in.
So is the state of clarity when you have clarity, is that an output of the effort that I put into noticing, or
No.
is it just
No,
it just
clarity
happens?
is the pre-existent condition. Clarity is what this always is clarity. Noticing is noticing that clarity. You don't accumulate clarity or develop clarity or generate clarity. You stumble upon it. You notice, oh my God, this is clarity. And then when you do so, you notice, oh, and it always was. I just didn't notice. I thought it was something else. I thought
So we
it was.
stumble upon it.
Yeah. But clarity, realization, is just this. It's just this condition here that's already happening. It really is. I mean, it's really what you're experiencing right now is realization. What you're experiencing
I
right
totally
now
believe that.
is clarity.
But whether I actually feel that, or I have that,
okay.
that perspective or that
Right.
orientation is
Right. I understand. But know this, everything you are feeling is that state.
yeah.
Anything you feel is that. Whether you take it as that or not, it actually is. Anything you feel whatsoever is realization.
Yeah.
Not in some esoteric sense, but just like right out front. In a profound sense, feeling is reality. What you think you're feeling isn't real, but that you are feeling and what you are feeling in actuality is reality.
So, but you still think when you're in. You
Sure.
still think.
Sure.
So your thinking hasn't changed from when you were in the unenlightened condition. You're still thinking, right? It's still the same thinking.
Sure.
It's just that you don't. There's more clarity there.
No, well, it's not that there's more clarity. It's just I don't give a shit.
Right.
There's thinking, but I don't think it's about anything, and it's just insanity.
Right.
Before I thought my thoughts mattered,
Right.
and I would use my thoughts to try and solve my thoughts. Like, good luck. Good luck with that one.
Right.
But then I see the actual context of, oh no, this is just an insane mind. I realized, oh, I'm a crazy person. That's the big news flash. I thought that I was I was somehow sane and I was fighting the good fight, but no, I'm a nutcase. I'm psychotic. I'm completely insane. And once I got that, all of a sudden things made sense. It's like, oh, no wonder. And then it starts being an issue of mattering or crediting the mind. It's like, of course isn't all this insane thinking, because my mind is insane. Not a problem. But I'm more than my mind.
So it's not really that everybody out there that we see in our consciousness is crazy. It's just that our consciousness is crazy.
They're crazy too, but your issue is that you're crazy.
Because I always feel like I'm projecting out. There's no projection coming in. It's just there's nothing coming in. It's I'm projecting out because it's my consciousness and my experience.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. But it's about. I think that's a big part of why the 12-step programs work powerfully, because because part of our insanity and part of our stuckness is our sense of all powerful. We think we're all powerful. We think we're responsible. We think I can do this, and the whole essence of 12 steps is like I'm completely powerless. I can't do anything. I'm screwed. The ship has sunk. And so you give. It's a surrendering. It's a giving up, and by that very fact, you're letting go of an investment. Just very directly and energetically, you're letting go of an investment in self-importance, and which basically just feeds this insane mind that's doing all this crazy gibberish. And then the mind doesn't stop, but you see that it's insane, it's powerless. So who cares? Yeah, I'm not joking when I say that, the mind is insane. It's insane. I mean, like stone nuts, psycho, bonkers, loony bin. And when you see that, when you really see the truth of that, things get a lot clearer. It makes a lot of sense. Then you, oh, no wonder. I'm a fucking madman. I'm completely psychotic, and all of a sudden everything makes sense. I thought I was sane.
I feel like I'm the last to discover that.
Yeah, you are for sure. Everyone else knows you're not.
Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, imagine what would happen to society if we all went around telling everyone they were fucked.
Might be a case for the better.
Yeah, we got the other.
If it's a person at the door, yes.
Maybe you should lock the door, Emma.
Seem to be popular tonight.
I'm going to try and find out where you're broadcasting and they just came on over.
I think that's probably what's happening. That people recognize the windows behind Peter's head and they say, there's something happening at the hillside club. You can ring the bell.
Was it a loony bin person?
So when you really get that you're crazy, that the mind is crazy, then right away there's a lot less taken seriously of all of these thoughts and this gibberish, and the opinions and your take on people and your take on situations. You get like, oh, I'm insane. Everything I think is completely wrong. I misjudge everyone. I misjudge everything because I'm a crazy person. And all of a sudden, there's a big deflation. A big, sort of a self unempowerment, or self-importance just sort of goes. It's like, okay, now what?
Could you talk about the now what?
Yeah, now what?
Now what is then the emphasis is not so much on all these stories and all this, in relying upon all this insanity, but you sort of poke your head up and look around. It's like, well, if my thoughts are gibberish, then what's going on around here? Because as long as we sort of subliminally trust our thoughts, even if we pay lip service to the fact that we don't, if we're sort of energetically trusting our thoughts, trusting our own opinions, then we're not going to look beyond that, because that we think we're there, we think we're somewhere real. But when you really get, oh my God, my opinions are completely arbitrary, they're gibberish, they're insane. So then the next step is you look around and say, well, what's going on here? But that's the only time you can really, that's the first time you can really ask that question sincerely, because until then, even if you're asking that question, you kind of think you know. You're paying lip service to the fact that you can ask the question sort of philosophically. But as long as you're trusting your opinions and stuff, you know. You know what's going on. But when you really are living that you don't know, that's a different place to be. Yeah, I don't know.
Very articulate.
Interesting. So what world do you live in when you don't know what it is? Well, that's a very good question. Then you can look around. Then you can sincerely investigate. Then you can poke your head up and go, wow, I wonder what's going on here, and really mean the question. You can ask it and really mean it, not just sort of be paying lip service to a philosophical inquiry, in the context of, but I really know what's going on.
But you also know when you ask that question that there is no answer.
Sure, yeah, but you get that, yeah. You find that when you look. But you can't see that, and when you think there is an answer, and you think you already know it, which is where we are when we're in our self-importance, when we don't get that we're totally insane, and that our opinions are completely nuts and based on nothing. At that point, you're prepared to see the arbitrariness of belief, and you can see that all the things you've ever believed are completely arbitrary. Until you see that you're insane, you think that your beliefs they're true. I'm pretty smart. I think what I think is true is, come on, it's pretty true. Between you and me, right? But then you get, oh my God, all these things I believed, I'm a crazy person. So they're nuts, of course. It's like I'm Napoleon. I'm the president. I'm the viceroy of the alien invasion. I'm whatever bullshit the mind wants to spit out. Is like totally insane. And I get, oh wow! So all this stuff that I've been sort of holding in the back drawer that I just know it. It's really true. I know it. It's like, oh my God, I don't. I'm a crazy person. So all these things I think I know are just like knowing that I'm Napoleon. It's just like, oh, I'm fucked. And that's a really good place to be from the point of view of inquiry, because then you can actually do inquiry. Until that point, you can't, because you aren't genuine, you aren't sincere, because you think you know.
It's very helpful work too.
Yeah, sure.
Not to know anything.
Yeah. When you get that you're crazy and everyone else is crazy, all of a sudden things make a lot of sense. No wonder things work the way they do.
So it seems that one of the ways, or one of the reasons why it's hard to accept that you're basically psychotic is because it does seem as if there are capabilities of the mind that do work.
Oh, sure.
So
there's functionality.
Yeah. So differentiating that part of, or distinguishing that part of mind that is clear and can function, as opposed to
just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're stupid.
Right.
Just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're totally dysfunctional necessarily. You may be.
So you're actually talking about that part of how you hold yourself to be who you are, who knows.
Yeah, I'm Napoleon.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying before, that just holding your mind, holding your state of presence.
Exactly. When we have that, we basically think we're right. In a profound sense, we trust that, and that is a lie. That's the glue that cements us in ignorance. That's the glue that cements us in confusion. Is that we think we're right. We think it isn't confusion. No, I'm right. I know. I really. Even if we pay lip service to inquiry and all that stuff, there's a bedrock of, but I know this. I know that.
Bedrock.
And you have to get that is. No, that is all suspect, and through the whole thing is garbage. Garbage in, garbage out, and it's all been garbage all along, every step of the way. So then you can. Then you're free of that. You're free of that, and that's a fun place to be. It's not very interesting being right all the time and knowing everything. It really isn't. I mean, we think it is when we have a lot of big investment on it, but when you get that, oh my God, everything I'm convinced of is just total insanity, that's a different place to be. It's a big load off. Because when you're crazy, you get to let go. It's like, okay, I don't have to run the world. I don't have to invade Russia. Thank God. Pain in the ass invading Russia, I'm telling you.
But on a more mundane level, you also don't have to have an opinion about anything.
And you're free.
All the things you've had opinions about real life.
And you're free to have opinions, and they're all bullshit. So so it's just like, oh, there's another opinion. Yeah, right.
Yeah. That for me is the big load.
Yeah, because again, these opinions at a certain bedrock level, we have a certain conviction and we're right. Even if we pay lip service to open-mindedness and intelligent and trying to see all sides of the issue, at the back, the sort of the bedrock is but I know what's right. I know it's true. And to break that off. To crack that open is a biggie, because that's when you're really free, that's when you're really groundless, because that keeps you grounded, that keeps you completely locked into commitment to living your imaginary world.
My sword's the right one.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of just a story, instead of just an arbitrary one, which it actually is. And even if we say that, we're lying. For the sake of argument, I'll admit, I might be wrong. I know I'm not. I might be wrong. I'm willing to discuss it. Not.
The other thing for me is that I don't mind appearing totally stupid now. Because I am.
You did before, John?
Oh yeah, I used to go to great lengths to
me too.
appear intelligent, to have the right answers, to have read the right books, to have an opinion that was correct for my persona.
I think that's the difference between men and women, basically.
Well, yeah, there is a big thing there. There's a big gender gap.
I was a male, so I am.
Don't ask directions. I know where I'm going, even if I don't.
I still don't ask directions.
Well, yeah.
But I don't give a shit.
That's the difference.
As opposed to the princess.
I am the lizard queen.
Well, why don't we take a 5-minute break? Anyone online will be back shortly.
So in terms of holding your mind, it seems it's in a state of not knowing.
That was a little incoherent to me.
Oh.
Can you elaborate?
Well, instead of that bedrock, that's kind of security of knowing who you are, what's going on.
Right.
I mean, there is a sense of holding yourself that way.
Mm-hmm.
And operating, actually, that way. So when you're not doing that, then you're actually operating in an unknown, insecure, unknown kind of...
Right. Well, relative to that mode, it's unknown and insecure. But relative to its mode, it's absolutely secure because it's actual. And that other mode is actually totally insecure because it's virtual, it's imaginary. You can't get less secure than that, and this mode is actual, so you can't get more secure than that. So, relative to the old way of holding your mind, of holding yourself in identity, letting go of that seems, iffy and insecure and unknown. But that's only relative to its frame of reference, and once you're not in that frame of reference, that becomes a moot point. And the fact that your crazy mind thinks you're crazy for leaving it, is of course it does it. Everything it thinks is crazy, so why shouldn't it think that's crazy? But the actual fact of being outside of that frame of reference reveals solidity, reveals actuality, reveals reality, which is the actual bedrock. This is completely reliable in its being. And, and your fantasies of your self-identity and your self-protectedness are totally unreliable, relatively. Because they're fabricated. They have to be put up. They have to be maintained. They have to be defended. They have to be, held in place rigidly. Where this doesn't have to be held in place. It holds itself. It's doing itself. It's actual. It's the true security. It's the true reality. It's so much more. You can't even talk about it. It's inconceivably more reliable and secure than these fabrications, which are just nothing. They're all pretense. How can you find security in pretense? If you're finding security in pretense, it's going to be a pretty insecure place to be. And look around the world today.
And at some level, we know this.
Oh yeah, everyone knows they're faking
knows
it. Yeah. That's why people are so defensive.
And
that's why challenge my bullshit. I'll challenge yours back.
But because we know it, we go seeking. That's what starts us as a seeker.
For sure. Because there's a fundamental insecurity that is known. We know we're faking it, and that terrifies the shit out of us, rightfully so. We know we're full of shit, and we can't allow ourselves to admit that we know, even maybe at that point.
It reminds me of that statement by Anthony DeMello, admitting I'm an ass, you're an ass, let's get over it, or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
So it turns out being full of shit is a good thing.
Well, it's just a fact. It's not good or bad.
Recognizing.
Yeah. Sure. Really, this is noticing. Noticing is about seeing what's real. And when you see that your egoic pretense of identity is not real, that's a good noticing. It's not like you need to stop doing it or even criticize it. Just notice it's not real. The mind effortlessly does it and will continue to do it, but who cares? It's just insanity. It's not real. It's a pretense. The mind doesn't need to not do it. You could have absolutely no personality, but you'd probably be pretty boring at parties. I'm speaking from experience.
Get used to it.
I'll try with that.
I'm with her. If you want an opinion, ask her.
I store all my opinions over there. My wife will tell you what I think. She tells me. So.
That's good.
So habituated, this drive to redress, that glimpse of wrong to the depth and breadth that I didn't even know was possible.
Yeah.
And go there for a second and then quickly put your clothes back on. It's just really breathtaking.
Sure. Yeah. And again, you don't need to beat yourself up with it. Just notice it when you can, when it's comfortable, and then let go. Just toy with it. You don't need to push too hard or get too go along with the whole thing. Just sort of play with it. Sort of a carefree, half-assed approach is actually the most efficient in spiritual matters, in my experience.
You not a militant one?
But you can't unsee it.
No, that's the point. Seeing is very powerful. That's why. Oh, you only need to do it. You only need to do it gently, because once you've done it, bang. You can't be. You can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again.
It's like that box, with the spring inside. You've seen one of those.
Jack in the Box?
Then you open it at the top unexpectedly, the whole thing just pops out.
Yeah. That's why noticing is so powerful, because you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. When you see that there's something outside of your normal world, bang. The balloon has been stuck with a pin, and it may take a while to deflate, but it's not going to suddenly magically seal over again.
But it does make one. You can't even go to cocktail parties.
Who'd want to? I'd let cocktail parties come to me. Much better strategy.
Wendy, when was the last time you went to a cocktail party?
Well, we never called them that.
We didn't call them that.
It seems to all rest on your noticing.
How which?
I said the knowingness seems to be related to the detail of your noticing and how you notice, because the noticing that we do in the satsangs is deep. It's very detailed, but yet I can be out in another situation and I don't have that level of noticing, and I don't see the detail, and it seems to I'm beginning to think that it's a real skill to be able to notice the detail in the presence and the energy and what's happening around you.
Well, it is a skill, and it's something that gets developed through familiarity. But again, you don't need to have ultimate in-depth noticing. You just need to have a little bit of noticing is fine. Just notice presence. Just a little bit, like I was saying earlier. Just glance at the sun or something. Even if it's just just for a second, it's like, oh, what? That was weird, and then you go back to your life. Just notice. Wow, this is the whole experience, isn't it? And then, okay, forget it now. No, it's not the experience. It's just the world and my psychic life and blah blah blah. But just for that second of just to get that whoa factor, even if it's very vague and fuzzy and just slippery and it goes in a second, doesn't matter. Just to go there every once in a while. Any way you can, any way that it's accessible.
when you say go, I guess there could be a lot of places you're talking about, but what I seem to register is instead of like someone being here who knows, instead it's like there's really nobody here. There's just whatever is here.
Yeah, sure. What I mean by go in terms of noticing is go to any experience that is outside the context of your definition. And if you look, you will discover that the vast majority of your experience in real time is outside the context of your definition. So this is actually quite doable. Even just look at a dust bunny on the floor or something, it has nothing to do with anything. You don't give a shit about it. And so just being with it, you're not in your game, you're not in your strategy, you're not winning or losing. You're not even you, it's just a stupid dust bunny, and what is it? It's just it's so nothing, and that nothing is a great place to be, because it's not you. You're out of your game structure, you're out of your soap opera, you're, the incredible, heartwarming adventure drama of me, and just peek out of it anywhere you can find. It's just a little. It's just outside of it. It's just about something that has absolutely nothing to do with you, that you don't care about one way or the other, and you don't even particularly know about it. You aren't even bothered to muster up some thought to define it. It's just like a pattern of dirt on the wall, or a spider scurrying in a corner. Just anything that's like that is just there. It's meaningless to you. Meaninglessness is a great opportunity to get out of your own way, because meaning, from the context of a person, means me. When you're with meaninglessness, you're with just this. All of a sudden, it's not me; it's this. And that's the whole point of noticing, is to get to this. Of course, it turns out that this is me, but don't need to worry about that. That takes care of itself.
But the recognition that, I had been in me and now I'm not, that's just another me.
Maybe. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about aftermath, just go there. And even if you can't stay, that's fine. It doesn't matter, just go there. Again, you're not declaring war on your worldview. You're not trying to fight it. You just want to poke your head out for a second, even if it snatches you back in. Doesn't matter. You got out, and that's all that counts. You're not trying to fight with it. You're not trying to say, "No, don't take me back. I'm staying out." It's like, "No, okay, take me back. I don't care. What the heck?" But you poked your head out, and that's the main thing. But let it win. Yeah, when it's winning, let it win. Don't fight with it. For God's sakes, that's the worst thing you can do, because that just energizes it. Because then it matters. It matters that I'm not noticing. Which is a sure way to not notice. Because the very essence of noticing is not mattering. And you can get into a point of relaxation where this does not, nothing matters. This doesn't matter. That's when noticing can happen. It does happen. That's the very essence of noticing. So if there's mattering, you're pushing noticing away with all your strength. So if it matters that you're noticing, is a sure recipe to not notice.
Well, that could very well feel like you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Not getting anywhere or
That's
accomplishing anything.
That's it.
Or
let go. Wow. Let go of that stuff. Big time.
But
Please.
Where's there to get but your grave? And you're going to get there anyway, so. Otherwise you're just wandering around in strange directions.
Is it presence or is it knowledge that that is more helpful?
Presence is knowledge. Knowledge is not thoughts, knowledge is not ideas, knowledge is not philosophy. Knowledge is this presence which is pure intelligence.
Well, when I think of presence, I mean, I feel presence.
That's
as
it.
Opposed to knowledge where I am understanding the details of my experience, the raw experience from what you are. So that's knowledge.
But when you understand those details, where does that happen? How does that happen?
It happens in presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That understanding is a mode of presence. And it can't happen outside of presence.
Right, but at other times, in other situations, and I where I may have lots of opinions, and it matters to me, then I can say to myself, well, you know, you're getting into craziness again, so just let it go.
Yeah.
And so that in those cases, I don't feel presence, but I'm applying what I've learned to the details of what you...
But when you let it go, then you notice that there's presence. Because presence is present. Presence is never not present. Right? So you can notice it. And
the present. Okay, so what you're saying is presence is always there, whether...
Of course. Presence is when I say presence, it's not some metaphysical quality. It's the simple presence of your experience. Is your experience ever not present? Even when you go to sleep, your experience is present. I mean, it may be very tenuous there, but it's still, right? That's the presence. The presence is the presence of your experience. It's never not here. And all knowledge happens in that presence. All distraction and confusion and insanity happens in that presence, too. So you're never cut off from presence. But noticing that is noticing. Noticing that everything happens in presence. So even insanity happens in presence, of course. So insanity is a mode of presence. It doesn't depart. Insanity doesn't take you away from presence. It's made of presence. And this presence is the common denominator that explains everything. I mean, that's why the presence is knowledge. So the more familiar you are with the presence, the more you see how everything fits in. The more spontaneous understanding shows up. Yeah, this presence is not some metaphysical or elusive or transcendent, or it's just this simple presence that is present right here, right now, of your experience is present. You know, you're feeling your experience, right? You're seeing, you're hearing. I mean, you're feeling. That's the presence. This right here is the presence. It does turn out to be transcendent. It does turn out to be astounding, but not because you need to go to some astoundingness and some transcendence to find it. You find it right here. Just this. This is the presence right here. This. Hear that? That's the sound of presence. Literally. That's it right there. You listen to that sound, everything you could possibly know about reality is in that sound. Literally.
Yeah, me too.
Lily gets it. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. I mean, that's what it is. But there's nothing but. That's what this presence is. And that's why I say the presence is understanding. The presence is knowing. Because it literally conveys itself, it communicates itself, and itself is just endlessly nuanced, and it communicates all of that nuance, which is all knowledge, is all understanding. It's just the nuance of this actual present.
When you talk about the experience, the raw experience, and also the apparent experience, it's everything that's happening that's in your consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So it could be you're talking to someone, and then somebody's out there in the hall talking, and then you've got objects or everything in objective reality is
all
the
of
raw
that
experience.
All of that, whatever is showing up as your experience,
and that's
whatever.
That's all presence.
Yep. It's all presence.
Because the other thing is like I have this feeling sometimes that I'm not generating this apparent experience. It's just like all just kind of like happening, and then other times I feel densely involved with it.
But that involvement is presence doing it. So you don't need to think you're doing anything.
Yeah.
Anything happens, you can't say whether you're doing it or whether you're not doing it. All you can say is it is here and you're here.
Right.
Thought is here. Am I doing it or not? I don't know, but it is here and I am here. Conversation is happening. Am I doing it? I don't know, but I'm here and it is here. So the presence is here, and everything shows up in presence mysteriously.
And so there's really no cause and effect. It's just all this mysterious happening.
Yeah.
Of energy events. There's really nothing is causing anything to happen.
There would have to be things to cause, and there would have to be things being caused for that to be the case, and you can't find any things.
Well, things are objects.
Yeah, but objects aren't objects. Objects are events, and events are not static. Events are not simple.
Okay.
Events are a flow. They aren't discrete. Yeah. Events are appearances. Things are events, and events are appearances. Appearances in the sense that they are appearing and disappearing. So things are not things; they are appearing and disappearing. So they're not nouns; they're verbs. This is a verb.
This is a what?
A verb.
Okay. So things that I apparently experience are what I've learned.
Well, no, you're experiencing them. The only thing you've learned is what you're thinking that they are.
Right.
What you're calling them, and any stories or narration you have about what they are, any definitions you have mentally. So you might say, oh yeah, this is a cup, and it's made out of clay, and clay is coming from the ground, and cups are for holding liquids, and we drink from them, and so all that narration you've learned.
Yeah.
And that narration exists as experience, and what the narration is supposedly about, this verb here, also exists as experience. They're all present. And how it all is happening is ultimately mysterious. In the sense of what's doing it, if anything's even being done, is mysterious. The whole thing is just downright mysterious.
So what are all the scientists doing?
They're looking at this mystery, trying to sort it out.
Yeah.
They may be burdened by their preconceptions now, but anyone's burdened by their preconceptions, so there's nothing new there.
So I guess they don't know that nothing can be figured out. It's all a mystery.
Well, I don't know. They may or may not. It depends.
They do. They just don't admit it.
Well, it's a job, isn't it? Do something for a job.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have a job.
But you really mean literally that we can't know why things happen. That everything's a mystery. That's what you...
Why is this? Why is this? Can anyone here say why this is? Can anyone here say how this is?
In the beginning there was joy.
There's that.
Then comes the Bible.
I mean, no one here can. You could get the top Nobel Prize winning physicist in here and ask them the same question, and they wouldn't either. Ultimately, they may be able to say a lot about it, but they couldn't really answer that question. No one knows anything. So what we think we know is very provisional. It's very partial. You can say, well, this cup is here because someone bought it and then someone brought it here and put it here, and that's why it's sitting here. But you can't say what someone is, you can't say what buying is, you can't say what space and time is, you can't say what transportation is, you can't say what any of the elements of that statement actually consist of. It can't be done. So saying something, so coming up with an explanation, you're not explaining anything, you're just substituting more unknowns for the unknown you started with. Changing the words, changing the description is not actually adding to the information. So if I say, I don't know what this is, and someone says, oh, it's a napkin, that doesn't actually improve the quality or quantity of information that's present. You're just substituting an I don't know for napkin. It's just...
It's actually a red herring you can get caught on.
Sorry?
It's actually a red herring you can get caught on.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and this is what so much explanation consists of, What's going on here? And then, question and the answer is, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And so you've substituted a what's going on here, which is indeterminate, for a blah, 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 which is equally indeterminate. But if you don't notice it's equally indeterminate, you'll think you've learned something. You'll think you've acquired something. And that's really the whole point, is to notice the nature of this presence is unknown in human terms. And all human attempts to know it will fail utterly. All verbal and conceptual attempts to know it will fail utterly. And so to abandon the pretense of even being able to do that or trying to do that and just going directly to this non-verbally, non-conceptually, which it turns out is very doable. In fact, you've always been doing it.
But the fact that we can make a cup, we can make a computer, we can make all this functionality, kind of leads to, we've got all this knowing and knowledge and all these tricks up our sleeve.
But none of that making and doing is conceptual. It's all direct energy functionality. Making a cup is not a concept. Building a computer is not a concept.
But then there's this passing along of the knowledge, learning how to make a cup, learning how to make it, and that while that's all not...
It's a red herring.
Well, the imparting isn't, it's a real thing.
It's still ultimately the actual transmission of information is experiential. You learn to make a cup by experiencing making of a cup. You don't learn to make a cup by words. Words don't make cups.
Sometimes you get them wrong. Make them upside down.
And this is very subtle, because words and conceptualization is an exercise in intelligence, and intelligence is real. But intelligence is non-conceptual. Intelligence is not a concept, it's an actual presence, it's an inherent, it's an integral functionality in reality. Intelligence isn't created by words. On the contrary, words are a symptom of intelligence.
But if I read a book on how to make a cup, I can probably figure out a lot easier how to make a cup, and that information helped me do the actual thing of it.
But reading a book is an exercise in intelligence, not an exercise in words. Intelligence makes cups, not words. And people were making cups long before there were words. But it's not, again, it's like I was just saying, it's subtle, it's not an either or. It's not like there's words and there's intelligence and they're divorced from each other. They're like this. But words and concepts are not structural members. Intelligence is a structural member. Intelligence is the backbone of functionality. And words and concepts are like noise in the system. They're like ripples in the wake of intelligence, which is the ship. They're symptoms of and sort of, there's a good word for it and it's not coming to me right now.
But if it's that wake, it is a pattern of that intelligence.
Yes, absolutely. Of course it is. We all know that. But the intelligence is what's carrying the weight. Concepts aren't carrying the weight. Concepts are nothing. They're just an echo of intelligence. And intelligence is not a concept. Intelligence is not verbal. It's not conceptual. It is a direct, integral, call it energy event of this present reality that is here. It's nothing but. Matter is intelligence just as much as anything. I mean, how can a one-celled organism with no nervous system, no sense organs, no nothing, find food, have sexual reproduction with its own kind, locomote? I mean, I don't know if you ever look through a microscope, you ever study microbiology at all? Some of these one-celled organisms have an astounding physiology. I mean, they have limbs that are designed to make them swim. They have like tasting devices that can stick out and find food. They only have one cell. There's one cell. There's no nerves. There's no organs to speak of, and they can do all this stuff. I mean, this is obviously
pretty close to being human.
Yeah, well, they are. This is obviously an exercise of intelligence, and intelligence is not about body structure. On the contrary, intelligence is integral to being. They exist, so they are. Of course, they are an expression of intelligence. Atoms, all these the quantum fluctuations of atoms and probabilities and all this stuff is the same. It's an expression of intelligence.
I was just reading that there's one cell. They've looked at one-cell organisms that, when they first reproduce, they take X amount of time to do it, and once they've discovered how to reproduce, then they reproduce faster and faster and faster, so that there is some learning experience that they have, and yet they have no, as you say, brains, nerves.
They have no nothing.
They have no nothing. They just got. They're just a cell, and yet they learn.
Yeah, and your body is made of billions of them.
And they're learning. Shit. What are they learning?
We're just another variation of an organism. Billions of cells.
So, Peter, it's interesting that it is possible sometimes to say, it's not possible to say what something is, but it is possible to say, to recognize actual events or circumstances in an energetic way. And I've been thinking about this lately in terms of conveying that to other people. Like being able to have conversations that convey information, so that there is a sense of recognition.
Sure.
It's almost like it's like a flip side of not being able to say anything.
Sure.
And it's an area which has been difficult for me throughout my life, because I've usually not had that. Growing up as a kid, there were a lot of times where I would see and recognize things, but nobody else seemed to see and recognize them. And so there was this great gap of invisibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm finding lately that I can see and recognize and somehow convey that, and it's reflected back to me in the sense that other people do recognize that.
Sure.
Does that make any sense?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, communication is possible. But again, it becomes more possible and more engaged the more we rely on intelligence and the less we rely on words, and then let the words come.
Yes.
So we stay with presence. We stay with our own experience of the intelligence of the field.
Yes.
And then communication coming from that, and then there may be words, but then there is a resonance there, and there can be communication.
So that's the primary container in which the experience is expressed, as
Sure.
opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think in a fundamental sense, all genuine communication is like a direct energy resonance or something anyway.
Yeah.
And if there's a medium like words or something, it's auxiliary to that.
Yeah, they're sort of just after the fact, and they just point in that direction.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's why it matters a lot more who says something than what they're saying. So three different people can say the same words, and their impact will be very different, because it's not about the words; it's about who's saying it. Because it's about the energy resonance that the words are being used as a Trojan horse for.
I guess what I'm noticing is that there is a lot more of that energetic component in my communication than there ever has been.
Sure. Yeah.
And that it has a more profound effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's that energy coming along that has that ring of truth, like you're hitting a couple.
I think this is, I think that anyone will notice this as we live more deeply in noticing and more deeply in inherent intelligence and in presence and less in our definitions. We are functioning on that level, and it has a lot more power, it has a lot more directness, it has a lot less sort of tendency to spin off into incoherence.
Well, I think too that I'm willing to recognize, to kind of trust that experience in myself too.
Right.
And to say what I see.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of time before I would perhaps doubt that to be true.
Yeah, sure. Functioning from what's actually present in your experience.
Yeah. And this is a good forum for that, sitting around with apparently highly intelligent presences of other.
Well, that's what we're doing here. Really is is directly, manifesting that level of interchange to whatever degree we are and do and can. And by doing it, we notice it, and we participate in it. And by participating in it, we come to appreciate it and not devalue it, and be more comfortable in just being nonlinear, being real, speaking from direct experience without needing to be particularly clever or rational. And remarkably, occasionally cleverness shows up.
But so it's really not the discussion or the dialogues that we're talking about here,
right?
That matters, but it's more learning how to feel the presence.
Presence.
That's really what this is all about.
Yes.
Because we could sit here for 2 hours and not say anything, but we'd still be learning how to feel that presence.
Yes. Talking is good because you can discover that the presence doesn't vanish when there is talking, when there is thought, when there is conceptualization. Because it's relatively easy to sort of be in silence and be in meditation and feel presence. But then it's very easy to think that you're somehow losing that when you stand up and walk across the room, or someone says something, or someone laughs, or someone sneezes or something. But to notice that's not the case. It's not, nothing, presence is not the opposite of anything. There's nothing that is mutually exclusive with presence. Presence is present with any mode of being. You can be busy, you can be laughing, you can be frivolous, you can be annoying, you can be emotional, you can be anything, and it's all in the context of presence. And noticing that is realization. Pure and simple. Presence is absolutely inclusive. And that'll be our last word for tonight, because the clock just chimed 9. Good night online.